The label Tom Clancy's carry significant weight in the world of gaming, as many people grew up playing these grounded tactical shooters or stealth experiences and whatnot that paved the road to some of the most beloved franchises. Ghost Recon has fanfare surrounding it. Splinter Cell, obviously, people are desperate for some new content on that. But Ubisoft lately has been focused more on live services like The Division, and now they're coming out with a new game called XDefiant, which many of you may have heard about. And basically it's a mashup of various factions and other Tom Clancy games, and they are brought together in what is essentially a first-person shooter a la Call of Duty, where they have implemented factions, or which are essentially classes that each have their own unique abilities and alts, and alongside that you've got loadouts that you can equip them with. But you can see even from the logo itself that it's a very different kind of Tom Clancy game. There's this, I guess, attitude to it. And from the likes to dislikes ratios across the various videos uploaded on this game, you can already tell that the fanfare surrounding this title has not been entirely positive. This is the official upload on Ubisoft North America. Here's IGN's upload. You can already see the likes to dislikes ratio is not great. And finally, we have one from GameSpot, sort of a similar ratio down here. And here's what the game looks like. I'm going to just kind of scroll to a segment of the trailer. So right here, you can see the kind of visual style that they're going for. They described it as a first-person shooter firefights meet punk rock mosh pit is how they put it. They emphasize the rebellious aspect of things, and that's why you know, some of the maps you see a lot of like graffiti and whatnot, and that's why the cosmetics are so wacky and why these characters can look, you know, just a little more heightened in terms of groundedness and realism. And this is where a lot of the kind of the contention surrounding this game kicks in. A lot of people are looking at this and saying, this is not Tom Clancy's. Why are you labeling this Tom Clancy? If you're going to go for this very different route, you know, label it something else. Make it a new IP. This game feels like it's as much Tom Clancy as Metal Gear Survive is Metal Gear. I'm not trying to say this game will be as bad as Metal Gear Survive, but you know, the minute people saw the Metal Gear label on this zombie shooter game, immediately people are like, what the hell is this? This is not Metal Gear. Same with XDefiant. People look at a shot like this with how colorful it is and how wacky everything looks. They look at this and go, why take a franchise that people have a very specific image about, that fans have a very specific expectation of, and go for something way out there? It almost feels like bait, like the IP names and their popularity are being taken advantage of to draw attention to the game, rather than titles and labels and IP names being utilized for the types of experiences that fit those names. And it doesn't help that as far as the Tom Clancy IPs go, people have not been entirely happy with certain outputs from Ubisoft, with Splinter Cell in particular being in high demand right now, people wanting to see a new game from that series, but no announcement yet. Instead, we get this XDefiant announcement, a title that really does not resemble Tom Clancy all that much. And that's not to say that I'm ruling this game out entirely. It could end up being fun. I'd have to get my hands on it. But the initial vibes that people are getting, especially with the Tom Clancy label, this being technically a new Tom Clancy game, is that, well, this really doesn't have that Tom Clancy vibe. And so scrolling down to the comments and looking at some of the top ones, you can see the kind of reaction that fans have been having. One of the top comments here reads, "This is our take on a multiplayer first-person shooter," which is quoting one of the bits in the commentary, "What about Rainbow Six Siege?" Here's another comment. "Dear Ubisoft, when we requested a new Splinter Cell, we didn't mean a Sam Fisher skin in Ghost Recon and Night Goggles gadgets in XDefiant. Bring back that solid single-player Chaos Theory type experience and I'll throw all my money right in your pockets." Referring to the fact that, as I previously mentioned, there are factions from other Ubisoft IPs. So Echelon obviously is from Splinter Cell, Outcasts and Cleaners are from The Division, and the Wolves are from Ghost Recon. And so it's sort of this Super Smash Brothers type of thing, but for Ubisoft franchises, but it's first-person shooter. And this is just not what people want out of a Tom Clancy game, which is why you've got people saying things like if they didn't slap Tom Clancy onto it, then it might have looked better. Somebody else here expresses how Tom Clancy back then was tactical military espionage grounded in reality, and how now it's all about drones, energy shields, sci-fi warriors, Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. Down here, realistic gunplay shows a guy in a clown costume with a sonic leaf blower. No doubt they went for this wackier route because they want to sell cosmetics. It's easier to convince people to buy cosmetics that really stand out, and so in sort of a more realistic type of shooter, you have to kind of stick to, I don't want to say generic, but just more grounded, less out there cosmetics, whereas with something like this, they can really play around, and no doubt a big part of why they went with this visual style was likely because it, on some level, it is more monetizable. Here's another top comment that says, it's actually remarkable how little I care about this, and the lack of interest will only decline further once the monetization schemes are revealed. This is a free-to-play game, so there is little doubt that there is going to be a whole lot of monetization attached to it, and obviously we'll have to wait and see whether they handle it correctly or they find a good balance. But Ubisoft doesn't particularly have a positive track record with their business models and monetization in their live services, or hell, even in their single-player standalone experiences for that matter. And here in the IGN video, one of the top comments is someone taking umbrage with the description of the style of this Tom Clancy game. Ah yes, classic Tom Clancy, quote, fast-paced firefights meets punk rock mosh pit. What? And then the second point of contention is that this game doesn't look super compelling, thus far at least. It doesn't really stand out from an oversaturated pack. This just seems to be another Call of Duty style shooter, more than anything resembling Call of Duty Black Ops 3, which has that multiplayer, but with classes and essentially entities with unique powers that can be applied for different strategies. It seems to be that kind of game, and it doesn't stand out visually. Graphically, it's not the best looking game. Just everything about this just speaks, chasing trends rather than establishing something truly unique. And that's not to say that it doesn't have a chance to be successful, depending on, what the impressions surrounding it are. But it really just looks like Ubisoft's Call of Duty with Tom Clancy slapped on it to generate some marketing hype, as Tom Clancy is a familiar title. It just looks very whatever. It's hard to feel all that much excited about this so far. And that kind of genericness and chasing trends is something that's always pervaded Ubisoft. As far as chasing trends goes, live service is a big component of Ubisoft's future, and that's why they're turning Assassin's Creed into a live service with this Infinity platform. This isn't like a Destiny-style looter or anything. It is a platform that will house multiple settings in this kind of interconnected environment. But turning this into a live service raises concerns about monetization, and one of the issues that Ubisoft's always had is that their open world games all feel kind of samey. They have a different, skin on top of it, and, different mechanics here and there, but the structure of these open worlds and the gameplay loop just feel damn near identical, from Far Cry to Assassin's Creed. And with now all of the Assassin's Creed being sort of interconnected in the single platform, the worry is that issue is going to get worse. Whereas with standalone titles, you can really kind of go in different directions. I don't know, maybe I'll be wrong about that, but that's currently the concern, and the monetization aspect. And just taking Assassin's Creed into a live service direction is not what fans have wanted out of Assassin's Creed. It's the least thing I think people want from this series, and there is just that general tone deafness of why are you making decisions like this, decisions that will upset fans? Why are you adding the Tom Clancy label on XDefiant when, just from a vibe and stylistic standpoint, it doesn't really resemble Tom Clancy? It's not what Tom Clancy fans want out of that label. They want Splinter Cell. They want sort of those more tactical and grounded experiences, especially those standalone experiences we used to see from Ubisoft. Same with Assassin's Creed. People want just more variety, and they want standalone experiences. Going live service, and given Ubisoft's track record with live services, just seems like it could be a risky prospect on the consumer side of things. Another trend that Ubisoft chased was Battle Royale with Hyper Scape, and admittedly, this was an interesting take on Battle Royale. It was this cyberpunk-themed arena shooter style battle royale type of experience, so at the very least they went a different direction with it. But the market was already fairly saturated by then, and you really had to stand out, and there were issues with the mechanics and the balancing of the game itself that just didn't make it a very great first impression despite the potential that it showed. And so this game kind of failed miserably. Right now, it's just really on the down low, with Kotaku Australia reporting on June 16th, 2021 that Hyper Scape doesn't seem to be doing all that well, as noted by the fact that Hyper Scape had zero E3 presence during E3 2021, not even in the pre-show. I mean, it's so bad right now that if you go to Twitch, only 47 viewers are watching Hyper Scape gameplay, and while I cannot specifically say how many players are playing Hyper Scape right now, when viewership is this low, when streaming interest is this low, it goes without saying that Hyper Scape's probably suffering as far as concurrent players go. So now the question remains, what is XDefiant's fate going to be? Will its resemblance to Call of Duty draw enough attention, and when people do get their hands on it, will it maintain interest, or will that fizzle off? Will the Tom Clancy label and the fact that it is leveraging all of these different franchises, will that be enough to draw interest to this, and will they be able to maintain this on a level that will allow this game to thrive? Just the fact that everything is going live service with Ubisoft. Tom Clancy used to be prominently single player with, multiplayer components added on top, but now a lot of it is live service, from The Division to XDefiant now. Assassin's Creed is now live service. Everything seems to be headed in this live service direction where the goal is to monetize, and live services often tend to compromise the potential of a game for the sake of monetization. Ubisoft certainly has a history of that. And the question is, will this fall into that same trap? Just because it's free to play doesn't mean monetization can't get in the way of a gameplay loop, of a progression loop. I'm not feeling it personally for now. I'll check it out and maybe report back, but I'm not necessarily excited by this. And if you look at the viewership, I mean, it's already been a day, and just the fact that it only has 300,000 views on the Ubisoft channel. On IGN, it only has 150,000 views, and on GameSpot, only 80,000 views. Like, that doesn't tell me that there is a major buzz surrounding this game, and it really will be a matter of the impressions that come out there from media outlets, from content creators, from streamers. We'll see how that turns out. But until then, let me know in the comments below what your take is, what your impressions are of Tom Clancy's XDefiant based on its reveal trailer. Are you optimistic about it? Are you pessimistic about it? Is it more about the Tom Clancy label and the way that a lot of fans feel has been misused? Share your thoughts below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.